The rails remember what the history books forgot. It is 4:21 and 3 seconds in the afternoon, September 12th, 2008. A text message arrives on a cell phone inside the cab of a Metrolink commuter train carrying 222 passengers through the suburbs of Los Angeles. The engineer reads it. Then, 22 seconds later, he sends one back. At 4:22 and 23 seconds, Metrolink Train 111 and a Union Pacific freight train collide head-on at a combined speed of over 80 miles per hour. The Metrolink locomotive telescopes backward 52 feet into the passenger car behind it. 25 people die, over 100 are injured. The engineer is among the dead. His phone is never found. This is the story of the 2008 Chatsworth train collision, the deadliest commuter rail disaster in California history. Oh, and the text message that caused it. If this story makes you think twice the next time you pick up your phone, subscribe to Rail Hunters USA and hit the bell. Every story we tell is real, researched, and more relevant than you think. Chatsworth is a suburban neighborhood at the northwest edge of the San Fernando Valley, about 25 miles from downtown Los Angeles. It is where the Metrolink Ventura County line transitions from double track to a single shared track. And it is where, on a Friday rush hour afternoon, everything went wrong. At 3:35 in the afternoon, Metrolink Train 111 departed Los Angeles Union Station, heading westbound toward Moore Park in Ventura County. It consisted of one EMDF 59PH locomotive weighing 250,000 pounds, pulling 3 Bombardier bi-level passenger coaches. At the controls was 46-year-old Robert M. Sanchez, a Metrolink engineer since 1996. Robert Sanchez was considered a capable, experienced engineer. To his neighbors, he was a quiet recluse who kept to himself and lived with 4 miniature greyhounds. But among young railroad enthusiasts, rail fans, he was something of a celebrity. They would line up at stations to wave at him as he passed. He waved back. He texted them. Sanchez had cultivated friendships with a group of teenage rail fans. He texted them about train operations, invited them to ask him questions, and in the days before the crash, I sent one of them a remarkable message. "I'm going to do all the radio talking. You're going to run the locomotive." On the morning of September 12th, Sanchez worked a split shift. During his morning assignment alone, he sent 24 text messages and received 21, while he was responsible for a passenger train. He returned from his midday break at 3:03 in the afternoon. From 3:03 until the collision at 4:22, a period of just under 80 minutes, he received 7 additional text messages and sent 5 more. In all, 57 text messages during the 2 shifts he worked that day. 57. Moving eastbound on the same track was Union Pacific Local Freight Train, LOF 65-12, 2 powerful SD 70A CE locomotives pulling 17 freight cars, returning from a day servicing industries along the line. Its crew had been given the right-of-way by the train dispatcher. The main track was theirs. Train 111 was supposed to stop and wait. The signal at Control Point Topanga, a red signal, was the last warning. Red means stop. Sanchez had already received an advance warning signal at the previous control point. A flashing yellow indicating he should prepare to stop. Records show he called it out as green. He did not slow down. He did not stop. He was reading a text message. At 4:22 and 1 second, Sanchez sends a text, the content, "Yeah, usually at North Camarillo," a reference to where he would normally meet his teenage rail fan friends. At 4:22 and 23 seconds, the collision, 22 seconds. The investigators would later determine the engineers of each train had no more than 4 to 5 seconds to react. The two trains collided at a combined closing speed of roughly 83 miles per hour. The Metrolink locomotive telescoped rearward 52 feet into the first passenger coach. The front half of that passenger coach was, in the words of investigators, completely obliterated. Almost all of the passenger fatalities occurred in that single car. The collision ignited a diesel fuel fire near the cab of the leading freight locomotive. Trapped inside, the two freight crew members banged on the thick glass windshield, unable to escape. Firefighters, unable to break the windshield, to cut through the rubber molding and pull them out of the smoke-filled cab. The first responding officer described the wreck as beyond human description. The Los Angeles Fire Department declared a mass casualty incident. All 6 LAFD air ambulances were mobilized. More than 1,000 emergency responders eventually worked the scene. A trauma surgeon described the injuries: head trauma, facial fractures, collapsed lungs, broken ribs, blood in the brain. 25 people died. They ranged in age from 18 to 75. They were commuters going home, a college freshman, an off-duty LAPD officer, an elderly retiree, and one passenger who had already survived the 2005 Glendale Metrolink crash, a man who had lived through one train disaster and did not survive the second. Jacob Hefter was 18 years old. He had just graduated as valedictorian from Palmdale High School. He was a college freshman, an avid golfer. He was riding Metrolink home from school. An hour before he died, he called his parents to say he loved them. His mother, Angela Hefter, said it later, "At least we hold that, because we can't hold him." The NTSB subpoenaed Robert Sanchez's cell phone records. His actual phone was never recovered, destroyed in the fire and impact. But the records told the story. 57 text messages during the day of the crash. The last sent at 4:22 and 1 second. The collision at 4:22 and 22 seconds. The NTSB established that the signal at Control Point Topanga was functioning correctly. The red signal was illuminated. 3 eyewitnesses came forward to say they saw a green signal, but the NTSB, after testing, rejected their accounts. The geometry of the station and the signal's placement meant the witnesses could not have seen it clearly. The signal was red. Sanchez did not stop. The NTSB's investigation also uncovered something deeply troubling. A supervisor at Connex Railroad, the contractor that employed Sanchez, had been warned about his on-duty cell phone use months before the crash. A co-worker reported it. He followed up again just 2 days before the fatal collision. He was assured the concern would be addressed. It was not. Here is the fact that should stop every viewer in their tracks. At the time of the Chatsworth collision, there was no federal law banning cell phone use by train engineers while operating a train. Metrolink had its own policy prohibiting it. But policy without enforcement is just paper. Sanchez had violated that policy 57 times in one day. Nobody stopped him. 3 weeks after the crash, the United States Senate passed the Rail Safety Improvement Act of 2008 by a vote of 74 to 24. President Bush signed it into law on October 16th, just 34 days after the collision. Cell phone use by railroad engineers federally banned. Positive train control mandated. Maximum shift lengths regulated. 34 days because 25 people died. Positive train control is a computerized system that tracks locomotive locations in real time, monitors signal data, and, critically, can automatically slow or stop a train if the engineer fails to respond to a red signal. Had positive train control been active on Metrolink train 111 that afternoon, the system would have stopped the train at the red signal. The collision would not have happened. 25 people would have gone home. Angela and Alan Hefter founded the Jacob Hefter Foundation to fight distracted driving. Angela Hefter told students directly, "That man was operating a train. He had 300 lives he was responsible for." There are mothers and fathers who never went home to their children that day. And then she said this, "One of the most precious things we have is that an hour before Jacob died, we got to tell him that we loved him, and he said, 'I love you too, Mom and Dad.' At least we hold that, because we can't hold him." Every September 12th at 4:22 in the afternoon, a bell at the Simi Valley Memorial Plaza rings 25 times. One ring for each of the 25 people who never arrived at that station. The trains still run through Chatsworth, past the curve near Stony Point, where train 111 met its end. Now there is a system watching. 22 seconds. The time between the last text Robert Sanchez sent and the moment of impact. 22 seconds in which a red signal stood at Control Point Topanga. 22 seconds in which 222 people had no idea what was coming around the curve. 22 seconds that changed legislation, changed technology, changed a family in Palmdale forever, and rang a bell 25 times. 22 seconds. The rails remember what the history books forgot. Subscribe to Rail Hunters USA. New episodes every week. Drop a comment. Did you know about Chatsworth before today? Tell us below. We read everyone,